Hello, everybody. Welcome back for another episode of the EveryWei podcast. I'm here as every day, and with me is Yulwei. How are you feeling this week?
Hello. Yeah, this week we're suddenly becoming super productive every day. Casted the LPL yesterday, and now we're also once again going for a podcast episode. So no more sitting back and doing nothing in the week and only waiting for the VCS to start.
No, we have to fill our days, and decided we'd finally do another episode. Maybe one day we'll have some regularity, but in the meantime, you get an episode when you get an episode. But yeah, obviously we had a pretty interesting week of the VCS. So if we want to have a look at current standings, I don't think we need to go through the whole ladder. What is the interesting standings for you?
So, the playoff race is now much more interesting than before, of course. We had the resurgence of DBL for... No one really knows why, or why they suddenly were way better than before again. But if you look at the standings, they are now tied with 𝘀𝗶𝗹𝗀𝘀 and EVOS 4 and 5. So 3 teams at 4 and 5, all still vying for playoffs, and there's only one spot left. So that's a super interesting setup for the last 3 weeks of the VCS. Of course, we have week 7, still 3 days, week 8, also 3 days, and then week 9, the very last week, we go back to the 4-day week from last summer. So still a lot of games to be played, but yeah, two of the teams actually will miss out on playoffs. So that's exciting.
Yep. Yeah, and the other maybe less interesting thing is bottom 2 is pretty much locked. I guess it's mathematically possible for Adonis to get out of there, but I don't think it's going to happen. So I think Adonis and FTV are going to relegation.
Yeah.
It's fair to
Adonis,
say.
of course,
I don't think that's a surprise.
Picking up a win gave them a big advantage over FTV. They still have to play FTV back, so if FTV manages to beat Adonis again, then it doesn't really matter that Adonis once again got the game victory. Not even game victory, they 2-0'd 𝘀𝗶𝗶𝗀𝗀, and that was out of absolutely nowhere. 2-0 over 𝘀𝗶𝗶𝗀𝗀 with hope in the jungle, so who knows, maybe Adonis is ready to surprise us, but of course their schedule looks horrible. They still have 𝘀𝗀, they still have 𝘁𝗏, if I remember correctly as well, so yeah, it's...
You're right.
Not likely, but who knows? Big miracle, the reverse. What was the team called that was 07 last split? I forgot already. Yeah,
the reverse
𝘀𝗀 7-0.
Don't worry, I think most people have forgotten them already.
For good reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 0-7 in the 2019 summer split for them. Maybe Adonis can put together the miracle run. I know that'll make Side very happy, but let's say I'm not putting any money on it. So yeah, I think the 4th, 5th, and 6th spots are the most interesting. DBL currently has hold of 4th just because of head-to-heads, which is a weird one to go to. Or is it because of game difference?
Game difference is the same between 𝘀𝗶𝗶𝗀𝗀𝗀 and 𝘀𝗶𝗶𝗀𝗀, so I think 𝘀𝗶𝗶𝗀𝗀𝗀 should be in 4th place. It's always a little bit...
According to Leaguepedia.
Yeah, Leaguepedia is not always right about the tie-breaking situation, so I think right now 𝘀𝗶𝗶𝗀𝗀𝗀 should hold 4th place, but of course, whoever wins the most series. We still have 5 series for every team. I see... Yeah, everyone is at 9 series right now, so we are 5 away from the 14 series we end the season with. So 5 still to play. 𝘀𝗶𝗶𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 and 𝘀𝗶𝗶𝗀𝗀𝗀 play again next week 8, on Saturday. So that's a very important match for them. 𝘀𝗶𝗶𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀, as I said before, 1-0 in the head-to-head. So 𝘀𝗶𝗶𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 needs to win this one. They also play EVOS still, which they lost in the first half as well. That's week 9. So DBL has 2 super important games still coming up. 𝘀𝗶𝗶𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀, EVOS, will that happen as well? Yeah, 𝘀𝗶𝗶𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 is actually the last day of the season. So all the...
Ooh, that's exciting. That could be really exciting.
All the big head-to-head matches still there. So the last day could actually decide the playoff race, which of course is super interesting.
That's super fun. So, I mean, I think we'll definitely talk a bit more about DBL, but to sort of wrap up looking at the standings, Who do you think's going to get fourth?
Oh, it's such a hard call to make.
It is.
I want to say DBL, but I have to check their schedule. They still play FTV, that should be a free win. Flash, EVOS, and Cerberus, and GAM. So, it's quite a hard schedule, but I think DBL should be the best of the three teams. If you look,
I'm going to pick Cerberus personally.
Cerberus.
I think they have an easier schedule.
What?
They don't have
Yeah,
GAM.
they don't have GAM, they have Flash, they have Secret still, so two strong teams. They play DBL, of course, they play EVOS, and then VGA. No, they lost against VGA, so...
They've played
yeah,
VGA
so
twice.
FTB, of course. Yeah, possible. EVOS still plays DBL, Cerberus, Secret, FTB, and VGA, so EVOS should have the easiest of the three, looking at the schedule, but also still two head-to-head games against the two, so...
The head-to-head is
Yeah,
what's going
I
to
think so
decide
too.
it, if we're completely realistic. So I think predicting the best team of the three to get fourth is
Yeah.
the way to go. And I just think Cerberus is a
a
bit
good
better
call.
than DBL. But we'll talk about DBL. We'll talk about DBL in a bit more detail because they did have a very interesting week. Speaking of that week, we can move on to it. We thought it was going to be a boring week,
Yeah.
didn't we? And boy, oh boy, does the VCS like making us look silly.
Oh, they really do. Oh man, what happened this week? It was so wild. So we started off the week with VGA against DBL, and VGA once again fielding a different roster. Hope played top lane, and it actually looked quite good for VGA, especially not because of Hope, but because of their team communication, and Xin in the bot lane, not an ADC position, but playing support, role swapping to support, and he had one absolutely legendary game. I don't remember the champion. I think it was game 2. 𝘀liche, maybe?
Was yeah, I think it
So
was
yeah,
Thresh.
he popped off on the 𝘀liche. VGA tied the series, and we thought, okay, maybe VGA might actually be able to win against DBL. And then Hope locked in Fiora. Yeah.
That didn't go well.
Why did he do that?
I think Hope got a little bit too big for his
He really did.
because he got slammed.
So DBL kind of got handed this series win on the silver platter, which, considering they then also won against Team Secret in the next day, is a little bit weird. Because if you look at the whole week, you might think, okay, DBL just surged and was way stronger, but both their opponents also just threw away a lot of the advantages. So Team Secret...
Absolutely, particularly
Team Secret on Saturday looked lost, really, really lost. They 2-0'd FTV on Friday,
They
and
looked
then suddenly
yeah. Secret looked as bad as they have this split. It's probably the worst series.
And Secret has those off series, right? So far they've only lost 0-2 to GAM twice, and then now once to DBL. So a little bit more consistent than the last season, but.
They've only played GAM once.
Oh right, yeah, no, I'm.
They still have to play.
They also won a game against DBL, so ignore what I said.
Yeah. It's all right. It's
yeah, I looked at the wrong series here, of course. Secret started off with loss. They played normal kind of team composition, but didn't go well for them. Celebrity on Lucian, not my favorite pick for him. And Big Kuro and Hin played MF and Senna. So the Senna support, the real Senna support for once. Very interesting to see.
Yeah.
28-minute victory for 𝘀liche𝗰𝗶𝗀𝘀, quite strong. 𝘁cie𝗰𝗋 with the on. And then game 2, Secret came back with on their side this time. And, of course, also Artifact on one of his favorite champs on Tristana. Very strong game from Secret, and we thought, okay, Secret just slept up in the game 1 and will close out the series as we all expected. We actually all called the 2-0 for Secret. And then game 3 happened.
Yep.
And
that Pick'ems was a big old line of red.
At game 3, I want to point out the composition for 𝘀liche𝗰𝗶𝗀𝗀. They played fasting Senna, of course, Null on Rice, so just holding mid lane, scaling into late game. And then Meliodas 𝘁cie𝗰𝗋 went for Irelia and Elise. And that Irelia popped off in this game. Elise actually did too, 7-2 and 10 at the end of the game. But 𝘁cie𝗰𝗋 ran away with the top lane, played against Hani, and smashed him in lane after initially getting set behind by 𝘀ike actually. So great performance from 𝘀cie𝗰𝗶, and he carried his team to the 2-1 victory.
So, speaking of our pick'ems, I just want to give a shout out because we never shout Peng out enough because he does so much work for the stream. But I'll also shout him out. He picked DBL 2-1.
Yeah.
I don't know how.
The only one to even trust DBL, and then he also picked the correct score. So shout out to Peng. Of course, he also picked FTV to win it over 𝘀liche. So
yeah, I was about to say he then shot himself directly in the head by picking FTV.
That's an interesting pick. What?
Yeah.
So, DBL winning 2 series back-to-back, 2 and 1 against VGA and 𝘁cie𝗰𝗃, and we gave 4 MVPs to 𝘀cie𝗰𝗃. Why did we do that?
Yeah. Because he had a sick week. He looked amazing. Obviously, he had that game bodying Hope, which was great. So I needed to get up the actual games because I'm totally organized.
He played a great variety of champs, actually. If you look...
Exactly. That's why I can't remember them off the top.
Yeah, he played an Ornn game, an Aurelia game, I think a Tristana game as well, right? Top lane Tristana, saw some play.
He did.
And then the 4th champ is up.
I think he played a Mordekaiser, didn't he?
Might be the case. So he performed greatly in all those 4 victories. So...
Oh, no, he played... so his 4 champions, I've just got it up on Games of Legends, were... He won on Mordekaiser versus VGA. He won on Ornn versus Secret. Lost on Aatrox and died 7 times, which isn't great. And then he popped off on Irelia.
Yeah, and then there's Tristana game too.
He went 10 and 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Tristana. Yeah, then he went 11-1 on Tristana and 1 and 6 on Ken.
Yeah, very striky performance actually. A lot of feast of famine. And of course we only award MVPs for the victorious games. So in the games that they won, he popped off. But in some of the games that they lost, he actually fed his ass off. So still not consistent enough.
Yeah, we don't award an LVP, but he might have been 4 MVPs and a couple of LVPs.
I think we had 2 cases so far.
I remember that Kennen game. That Kennen game, he did nothing. He would go in and ult and just get immediately exhausted every single time.
Couldn't actually do a whole lot.
It was so depressing.
I think we had 2 cases where we decided to give the MVP to the losing team because one player was just playing his heart out and his team let him down. But yeah, we don't award MVPs to the worst performance ever. So 𝘀cie𝗰𝗃, I'm still not quite sure where I come down on him.
He's definitely better.
Yeah, he is. He is generally also more consistent and he can play a wide variety of champs. He still has those off games on Aatrox, on Kennen, as you mentioned. But overall, he brings a lot to his team, and I think Meliodas also had another lane to play around, especially with now a big current Hin prioritizing the fasting center. You don't really want to play around fasting center, so I think it's a very nice style for DBL right now, also to come into the last few weeks, to play fasting center and then topside focus in the early game. Try to snowball 𝘀cie𝗰𝗃 because you know he can only play a good game from ahead. That's a good setup for DBL.
Yeah, I mean, he's played 12 champions.
Yeah, it's insane.
That's a lot. Most of them only once. Has gone to the Mordekaiser 4 times and Ornn twice and everyone else once. Which is a bit crazy when you think about it. And as you said, DBL is quite flexible, particularly with 𝘀cie𝗰𝗃, because he can play weak side and strong side. Like Mordekaiser and Ornn are obviously weak side laners. They make up half the games. And then all of the other picks are mostly strong side. Except the Vladimir and the Aatrox, which he lost on the Aatrox anyway.
Yeah. So Yeah, I'd like to see more Hasmet focus. I think he can shine when you play through him, but he also looks pretty weak if you fail to assist him. If he's not on Honor Mordekaiser, that's probably the reason they primarily pick those champs for him. Personally, not the biggest fan of Mordekaiser, so maybe it's not too great to just have him on Mordekaiser all the time. 50% win rate, so fair enough. Has also won half the games on, so 1 game won, 1 game lost. It's not actually that great of a win rate if you look at the two champs he has played most. But also the team is sitting at like 47-48% win rate, 11 wins, 12 losses. So 48 it is indeed.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd like to see a little bit of a change of style for DBL. If you look ahead to the next week, so week 7 coming up tomorrow. DBL will play against FTV, only one series this week, which means they have a lot of time to prepare for the bigger matches. And week 8 they play against 𝘀liche and 𝘀𝗶𝗹𝗀. That's a very big week. So this week is a little bit of just observing the other two teams. 𝘀𝗶𝗹𝗀 plays twice, EVOS only plays once. And what would you like to see DBL play against FTB? Would you like to see a little bit of experimenting, or do you think they should just go for their best strategy and secure the 2-0?
I think experimenting, but not memeing.
Yeah.
I think you can try stuff out, see what you can do in the bot lane now that you've got the new support, that sort of thing. I think that can happen, but I don't want to see meme picks. Like, you do actually need to treat FTV as a big scrim. So definitely don't screw around. I don't think DBL has... Like, 𝘀𝗀 can screw around, right? Because they're so far ahead that even if they threw a series, it doesn't really matter. If DBL throw a series, like, okay, playoffs is gone.
Yep, I agree. Especially if you throw against FTV.
So a bit of experimenting.
Right? So.
Oh, yeah, you're dead.
I'd actually maybe even like to see full-on serious mode against FTV. Stomp them 2 games, build confidence, go into the week of scrims, of course, and then prepare for 𝘀liche and 𝘀𝗶𝗃, especially 𝘀𝗶𝗃 in week 8.
Yeah, I think both of them. Yeah, building confidence definitely has some merit. If you can just absolutely wipe the floor with FTV and really be cock of the walk going into your next 2 games, which are very important, because I think there's a world where DBL beat 𝘀liche.
Yeah. If you want to touch on...
It's not... I wouldn't...
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. We can have a talk about 𝘀liche as well, because I'm doubting 𝘀liche a little bit.
𝘀liche struggled to win against FTV, and that's never a good sign.
Yeah.
Because FTV is also the team that suddenly plays way better than they played before. Last summer, of course, they looked like the worst team in the league for quite some time, and then suddenly got up to 6th place again. So maybe it's that time of the year again. But yeah, I was not too convinced with Team 𝘀liche and how they looked against FTV. But to be fair, 𝘀cie𝗰𝗶𝗃 also struggled a lot. So I would still favor 𝘀liche in that matchup. Obviously happening in week 8 on day 1. But 𝘀liche also has to play against 𝘀𝗀 this week. So if they lose against 𝘀𝗀 or get blown away, maybe 2-0 in like 30-minute stomps, then suddenly you lose a lot of confidence in 𝘀liche.
Yeah, and I mean, I hate to say it, but I think part of it is Yoshino's not having the best split.
Yeah, it's true. Also very stubborn on some of his pick choices. He went back to the Jace, lost the game, then played 2 games of On, because probably the team on Surge said you have to pick On is too broken. And I mean, they looked great when he played the On. They won both of the games against FTV. Even though the first game was a little bit of a struggle.
He's played On 6 times.
So it seems like Yoshino needs to play a little bit of the secondary carry role, or even tertiary carry, with Yijin stepping up, because as much as Yoshino has not looked as good as on 𝘀𝗀, Yijin has actually now looked insanely strong, maybe even the best jungler in the split, with Levi struggling. He dominated FTV on 2 AP champs, 𝘁𝗃 and Nidalee, so... Yeah, 𝘀liche is a little bit of an enigma. I think they still have a lot of potential, especially if Yoshino gets back to form. And if we want to tie this into the matchup against 𝘀𝗀 maybe a little bit,
Yep, I think we can
For
do
me,
that.
in this matchup, 𝘀liche is still the most likely team to take down 𝘀𝗀. Even though I'd say, compared to all the other teams in the league, 𝘁𝗀 is the better team. 𝘀liche is still the team that, on a good day, might be able to beat 𝘀𝗀 again.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, Flash often, they're sort of the epitome of that. They play to the level of their opponent.
Absolutely.
So when they play against bad teams, they look really dodgy, and they lose games for no reason. And then they play against 𝘀𝗀 and they beat them, which doesn't make sense.
It really doesn't. Also, their games against 𝘀𝗀 weren't super convincing either, right? 𝘀𝗀 handed them the victory in the second game with the Soraka, Yuumi, and Lee Sin composition for some reason. Then the third game, 𝘀𝗀 had a really big throw at Baron, so it was not like 𝘀liche dominated 𝘀𝗀.
It was probably the worst game I've ever seen out of
Yeah, it was
as well.
horrible. It was really bad.
He played terribly, which we don't ever say. Really.
I still think 𝘁_ČIN right now might be able to exploit 𝘁𝑇i a little bit and maybe pick a very strong scaling jungle champ or a very strong AP runaway with the game champ like Nidalee, like 𝘁𝗶𝗏. I'm not sure if all the games lanes can hold up. 𝘁𝗏 in the first part of the split looked very strong, and then last week for some reason he just played all the AD mid laners. There was no reason for him to do that, but yeah, it was a little bit puzzling. I'm not sure if he just wanted to try something against FTB, if he goes back to control mages next week, which I think he looked strongest on. 6 Ryze games, 4 Syndra games. I think those are the champs you expect 𝘁𝗏 to play, especially into DR1. Don't think you should go for playmaking champs.
Yep.
So would like to see a return to that. Then also 𝘁𝗏. 𝘁𝗏 has now branched out and played a few Aphelios games, played a fasting center. So I think 𝘁𝗏 has stabilized. I had a lot of criticism for him on this beginning of the split, but he quietly looks like the second best player on the team. 𝘁𝗀, I think, by far the best right now. So
Yeah, definitely.
if you had to predict 𝘀liche against, you will predict 𝘀liche against 𝘀𝗀 in the big brand predictions, of course. What is your score for that?
I think I'm going, at the moment, I'm going 2-0 𝘀𝗀.
2-0 𝘀𝗀.
I think game 2 will be close. Because game 1, it's game 1 Flash.
That's true.
So
I think I'll go with
game 1
2-1
Flash.
𝘀𝗀. Because 𝘀𝗀 didn't actually convince me too much either this last week. They played against EVOS, they 2-0'd EVOS, but the two games were surprisingly close. EVOS held the gold lead at like 1k only for 𝘀𝗀 at 20 minutes, which is way less than the average. I think if 𝘀liche can do that, 𝘀liche can definitely win another game. So I think right now I'm probably looking at the 2-1 prediction for 𝘀𝗀 over 𝘀liche. But it's also 𝘀𝗀. 𝘀𝗀 can use the 1 week to just be super dominant again. They are still the team with the fastest games. The only team in the VCS with under 30 minutes game time. So yeah, we might just see another super strong 𝘀𝗀 that just blows 𝘀liche away and secures first place pretty much. But yeah, I think they struggled a little bit too much on the last week.
I agree. I just think, I don't know, I think it'll depend. I'll have to look at them very closely this week to see if I really believe. I don't know. I think it's hard to call.
One little thing for 𝘀𝗀.
I mean, they play.
What do you think of 𝘂𝗎s so far?
I don't think he needs to play. I don't think 𝘀𝗀 needs him. He looks good on set. He had a fantastic set performance. Who else did he play? That's actually...
Yeah, Aatrox. Aatrox against EVOS. Yeah.
Aatrox. And, yeah, I think from memory, he played pretty well. I mean, he's still 𝘂𝗎s, right? He hasn't lost a game. He's played twice.
But I think there's another interesting thing.
Has an insane KDA.
Yeah. There's another interesting thing now happening with the MSI being moved to later to the year, into the year, at July. Doesn't make sense for 𝘀𝗀 to play 𝘂𝗎s at all.
No.
It really doesn't, right? Especially if you were looking at the MSI tournament with 𝘂𝘀 in your lineup, you would like to build some synergy, right? You would want 𝘂𝘀 maybe even to be a starting top laner again. But now with MSI in July and 𝘂𝘀 still wants to go to an LPL team, as far as I know. So he's only here.
I mean, surely he is. Like, from what I've heard, V5 wants to give him a contract.
And they need better players.
The rumor mill.
Man, V5 is not a great team. So
no. So bit unlucky for 𝘂𝘀 that he might be going to a bottom feeder in the LPL, but I mean the salary difference. Doesn't matter who you're going to in the LPL. It's going to pay so much more than the VCS. So it's definitely a lifestyle upgrade for him. But yeah, I mean, this is not confirmed. What I've heard is they want to offer him a contract, but they're like, well, we're not really going to start paying you if you can't even get into China.
Yeah.
Because of coronavirus, which makes sense.
So I'm really curious to see what 𝘀𝗀 wants to do now. They could also just make the call to say, okay, Spring Split does matter a little less because MSI is not on the line anymore. So we actually want to give 𝘂𝘀 time. We love our 𝘂𝘀. He's like the prodigal son of 𝘀𝗀. So maybe they.
I also think he's got very good relationships with everyone in the team that matters.
Also,
not to say he doesn't have good relationships with everyone, but I know 𝘂𝑇i is like really good friends with him, and 𝘁𝗀 loves him.
We saw last year all the time when 𝘀𝗀 played, they were joking on stage. They had such a good time all the time. So I think there's a lot of chemistry with the other players, as you said, and 𝘁𝗀. So 𝘀𝗀 could make that call as well. I would like to see more play for 𝘁𝗏 because I think it's kind of unfair to have 𝘂𝘀 move in. But I mean, in 𝘀𝗀's situation, it's also a little bit of a luxury problem because they will probably win this league, or at least the regular season, doing whatever they want. So in the end, may not matter too much.
I do think it's a bit shitty for 𝘁𝗏 because 𝘁𝗏 looks like the best top laner in the VCS, and he's getting games taken off him, which if you were like an outsider and like maybe 𝘁𝗏 wants to upgrade league, maybe not this split, but maybe at the end of the year or halfway into next year, and then people are looking at him going, well, he was getting subbed out. Maybe that's not the player we want. So it looks bad for him. I don't think it's fair, but at the same time, if you're 𝘀𝗀, you're like, well, we've got the best top laner that the region's ever produced, and the current best top laner in the league. Well, I don't think we're complaining.
Yeah, that's very fair. So,
it's a good time for 𝘀𝗀 fans.
So for maybe the very last series to touch on for the week of upsets, of course, VGA's surprising 2-0 over Cerberus. That also changed a lot in the playoff race, because coming into that day, Cerberus and EVOS hadn't played the whole week, so we were looking at DBL's resurgence and said, okay, Cerberus is still ahead of DBL, and if they win against VGA, which was something we all expected them to do, they would be in a better position than both DBL and EVOS. But suddenly, Cerberus got 2-0'd by VGA, and honestly, VGA looked very good in this particular series.
Yeah, I don't think it was entirely a throw. I think VGA just kind of were the better team. They looked good.
Yeah, playing spoiler a little bit for...
I don't think we've said even once.
No. They looked good in the very first series and the second series. So actually the series against Cerberus in week 2, I think it was, Adonis did play Cerberus very closely. Cerberus and Adonis, that was a cool macro series, a lot of movement around the map. But in the end, Cerberus came out ahead. And since then, Adonis didn't win a single series until now. Cerberus against Adonis. Hope, the coach, playing jungle. And...
yeah, that was so strange.
It was super strange to see, but it worked out. He actually looked great. He did play some very easy to execute champs, of course. He did play the Xin Zhao and Zac in the second game, so not high mechanical champs, which we like to see, of course. And then Adonis played a very strange composition with Kalista Thresh in the second game.
The Zac looked
Yeah,
rough.
that's true. He got invaded and didn't look too great. Cerberus in the second game kind of threw, but the first game was a big, big stomp for Adonis. They wiped the floor with Cerberus. They ended the game on 12.5k gold difference and 32 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it was a big stomp.
It was incredibly convincing. It was it kind of started with Zhuhao was on the Elise and he got invaded on his red buff and tried to 1v1
Yeah, Hope just murdered him.
got blasted because you're like level 2 fighting a Xin Zhao with Hail of Blades. Yeah, good luck. And he never got back into it. And Hope had 2 jungles. It was insane.
So, do we expect Cerberus to bounce back the next week? Or do you think Cerberus is now on the downward trajectory like in the last split?
Well, I think they're on the upward trajectory because I predict them to get 4.
You think they are the best of the 3?
I think they can recover.
They start this in the week tomorrow with a very, very hard game against Secret.
That is
But would
tricky.
also
That
go
is
a long
hard.
way
I mean,
for them. If they are able to win this one, that's a super important victory. That's one free victory over all the other competing teams.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Secret has looked weird, which I think we are going to talk about in a bit. So I think Cerberus could pick up that win. I definitely think they could. I would still favour Secret, and I think I'll pick Secret 2-1. But
I think so too.
2-1 definitely can go the other way. So, do we want to move on to talking about Secret a little bit?
Yeah, if you'd like to.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to move it because Secret, are they good?
Well, yes, but no. I'm really not sure. It's a very, very strange team. I mean, I think Secret is good, but very inconsistent as well. We talked about them already a little bit about their game against EPL, of course, and 𝘁cie once again was a little bit of a problem in the top lane. So I'm not sure if you want to go back to Coated. So far we have had a lot of praise for 𝘁cie this season, but then he showed us the rumble into Aurelia and died repeatedly to 𝘁 in the top lane.
One thing about that though, how much of that is his fault?
Yeah, that's true.
Because a coach told him to pick Rumble. That's a shocking
Was
matchup.
also last pick Aurelia as a counter pick into the Rumble, so it's not easy, of course. I still think Coated wouldn't have given up this many kills, potentially. Maybe even a little bit stronger in the early laning phase. Coated is a stronger laner than 𝘁cie. I can understand why Team Secret is playing 𝘁cie again. I think he's way more solid than he was last year. And yeah, looking at the other players on the team, Celebrity is having a very good split. One of the strongest ADCs right now, especially on the more laid-back, more backline ADCs like Senna. He's looking very strong. And then Artifact is once again one of the best mid laners. 𝘁𝗀 is popping off in the jungle, in contention of the second best jungler. So I think overall they have good players, very, very strong players all across the board. I wouldn't pick Secret to be able to contend for the title, honestly.
At the moment, no. I don't think so. I think it is unfortunate, and we said the exact same thing last split. It's not as bad this split, but it's unfortunate that the hole in their team is in top lane. Because if you want to win the split, you have to compete with Garm and Flash, and Yoshino and 𝘁cie are going to push 𝘁cie shit in.
Sadly, that's very true. Though I have to say, Team Secret against Flash is another super interesting matchup. The fight for second place. If you look at this schedule, Secret plays a lot of strong opponents still. Cerberus, EVOS, Garm, and Flash as well in the last week. We actually have the Flash Secret game still on the table. Flash...
it'll be very interesting.
Yeah, Flash...
But I think the top lane is a whole.
Yeah, I think it's... Flash Secret is always a little bit of team or sum of their parts against sheer individual skill. So Secret is a little bit better than the sum of their parts. But Flash usually has the stronger players. Last time they played against each other, I think Secret won, right?
I think so. think so.
Yeah, 2-0 even. So they stomped 𝘀liche in the last series. I think if they played right now, I would give... whom would I give the edge to? Not actually sure. It's a very close call.
I think it's
Yeah, it's
close.
very close.
I think it's
I think
close.
with 𝘀ощinõ's performance in the last week, I would actually... I think I would predict 2-1 Team Secret. But it's almost 50-50 for me.
Yeah, I wouldn't go near that with my wallet if I was a
Yeah,
betting man,
really
which
not.
I'm not. Yeah, wouldn't go near that one. That's super hard to predict. I think I'd agree with you that it's probably 2-1 Secret. I know I said that 𝘀ощinõwould crush 𝗀𝗀. I more mean playoffs 𝘀ощinõ, because I think 𝘀liche will show up in playoffs. But regular split, I think if they played tomorrow, Secret probably wins, but so hard to call. And 𝘀𝗀 definitely wins.
Yeah, that's a super interesting thing to look at as well. So I think to end the current standing discussion that has already dragged on for a long time, we have two very, very interesting spots on the table. We have fight for second place, Team 𝘀liche against Team Secret, and the fight for fourth place between 𝘁cie𝗶𝗶𝗀𝗀, Cerberus, and EVOS. And the schedule is working in our way, so we still have a lot of very, very interesting matchups, starting with Cerberus against Team Secret this week. DBL plays an important game against 𝘀liche. And then we have all the bigger clashes in week 8 and 9 as well.
Yep. So, do we have anything, matchup in particular that we want to talk about before we move on?
So to this week.
To this week, yep.
Yeah, let's just preview the very first series of the week a little bit. Cerberus against Secret. We just teased it a little for a little bit because Secret and Cerberus are both in playoff contention. Of course, Secret in a way better position, two series ahead. When they played for the first time, Secret beat Cerberus, I think. Let's look at that. Yep. Still under the name of 𝘀ecie, 2-1 against Cerberus. So Secret, after the loss to DBL, they need to redeem themselves. Because if they actually lose to Cerberus, suddenly they are not even really secure when it comes to playoffs. Right now we're looking at them as our second or third best team, but if they lose to Cerberus, they could actually enter the fourth place discussion as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think, yeah. That's the thing, is other than 𝘀𝗀, I don't think anyone is super locked in their spot.
Yeah, I think 𝘀liche is probably secure for playoffs at least, because they are 7-2.
For playoffs, definitely, but not necessarily in second.
Yeah, I would agree with that. They still play VGA, which should be a free win. Everything else for 𝘀liche actually could be a loss. So, yeah, I agree. They should be locked for playoffs, but they could still fall to fourth place as well. Secret is in kind of the same boat. They could actually fall out of playoffs still if they lose every single game. It's not likely. They have a hard schedule though, so they could go 1-4, lose to Cerberus, EVOS, 𝘀𝗀, and 𝘀liche, and win over the VGA. And 1-4, then they're at 7-7. It might not be enough to get to playoffs, so it's not likely, but Secret still needs to secure some victories. I think we both favor Secret over Cerberus, though.
Yeah, I do.
Cerberus, as we said before, a very disappointing game against VGA, with VGA also looking quite good. What is Cerberus's ways to win against Secret? That's potentially something interesting to talk about here.
See, potentially you can exploit the jungle. That's not easy. 𝘁𝗏𝗆's he's okay this split, I think. He's definitely not great. You can always have the go top all the time approach, because 𝗀𝗀 just is the weakest link of Secret. But they could also just put 𝗀𝗀 on super, super safe champions. I think it's hard for Cerberus to attack.
Yeah,
secret.
it's a matchup. Cerberus is one of we kind of classified Cerberus as the solid team that can't win against better teams because their talent is not enough. I think the biggest gap, if you look at Cerberus against Secret in potentially in Cerberus's favor, is bot lane for me. If Ronopi plays as well as he did some games in the split, and Artemis is maybe put on a little bit of a more mechanic heavy champ, you might be able to exploit Celebrity Venus a little bit, especially if you deny Fasting Center. I think that's very important this game. Whoever gets Fasting Center should have a big advantage. So I'd like to see a little bit of a bot lane focus for Cerberus. Maybe try to ban out all the very easy position ADCs. Ban out Asriel, ban out Senna, maybe even ban out, I'm not sure, maybe Aphelios as well. And then try to force the very volatile bot lane matchup where Artemis can outplay Celebrity.
Yeah, I think that's probably their best plan of attack, but I still favor.
Yeah, I do too.
I think that's a hard to execute plan of attack.
Especially because mid jungle is heavily in favor of
It'll definitely be an
Secret.
interesting series. Yeah. And I think top is also a little bit moot because I don't think LL or YT have impressed me enough that I think they could just crack the game open in the top lane against 𝘀cie. I think 𝘀cie will be fine. Probably loses lane against both of them because 𝘀cie doesn't win lane very often, but I don't think he gets smashed.
And even if he does, I don't think LL or YT can really transition their leads to win the game. I've not seen them do that too often. I think they are solid top laners, a good laning phase, very solid team play. They're very serviceable, but they are not Zeros type top laners that can run away with the game after securing an advantage. So I think 𝘀cie would just be fine to secure some minions, scale into the late game, and then provide his team with some engage or whatever he's playing. So I agree. I don't think LL and YT are the players you look for if you want to exploit 𝘀cie. You need a Zeros type hard carry player. Or 𝘁𝗏 even. I think 𝘁𝗏 is actually a very good player to exploit 𝘀cie as well, because he can run away with the game. LL, not so much.
Yeah, I agree with that. I definitely agree. So, do we have anything more to say about that series, or are we ready to move on?
Tune in. It will be interesting.
Absolutely. It'll definitely be very fun. So we've already had a bit of a talk about 𝘀 and Flash. Is there anything more to add to that one, or?
I think everyone probably knows what 𝘀 against Flash is all about. It's the big rematch. 𝘀's only loss so far. Yoshino against his former team. Yijin against 𝘁𝑇i is probably my highlight matchup of the day. But Yoshino against Zeros would be super hype as well. I would like to see Yoshino Zeros matchup. 𝘀 is the favorite, especially through mid lane. I think Flash has some advantages here and there. Bot lane should always be Flash favored with Slater against Blazes. Top lane can be Flash favored on the correct champs for Yoshino. And I think Yijin has looked better than 𝘁𝑇i. So, yeah.
Yeah.
There are some avenues to victory for Flash, but it's 𝘀 coming in as a big favorite here.
Yeah, I mean, they are definitely coming in as a big favorite, but it's not unimaginable to see Flash walk away with a win here.
And if they do, that actually impacts the league a whole lot, because Flash, of course, is one series behind 𝘀, but 1-0 over 𝘀 in head-to-head. So if Flash wins over 𝘀, they will tie 𝘀 in series, but be 2-0 in head-to-head, which means if they tie at the end of the series, end of the regular season, they would be first. So 𝘀 really needs to win this one. Of course, Flash can still slip up in the next few weeks and then give over the first place to 𝘀 again. But it's not super likely, especially if they get the confidence boost after victory over 𝘀. So I think 𝘀 this week will be very serious. No troll, no Soraka, Yuumi, Lee Sin. And we'll try to 2-0 Flash.
Play that again. That was so
Yeah,
bad.
it was. That was probably the worst game we have seen 𝘀 play in a very long time.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I think we have a very good week this week. We're a bit spoiled after I mean, again, we thought last week was going to be boring, but it was actually super interesting
It
in
was.
the end. So we're just getting 2 good weeks.
Well, last week did a lot for the league. We thought the playoff race would be a little bit stale, with Cerberus looking like the clear best fourth best team, I should say, and Team Secret and Flash competing for second place would be the most interesting thing. But now with the resurgence of DBL, with Cerberus falling to the VGA, we have 5 series left for every single team, and every single game will count a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. But that is our 2 sort of matches of the week, though. They'll probably say Gun Flash is the match of the week, and I can't say I disagree. That we've had a bit of a think about, a good preview. So, you ready to move on to a fun little section that we decided to do?
Let's go.
So what we've done is both of us, before we started recording, made a dream team of the VCS. Now, the rule was you could only have 1 player from each team to prevent it just being 3 GUM players for both of us. But we haven't discussed it. We don't know what each one of us picked. So we'll go lane by lane. Who do you have in top?
So I struggled to decide top lane. I had 𝘁𝗏𝗏 or Yoshino for top lane, and I decided to go with Yoshino because I think overall he's still the more solid player. I don't really like any other options for top lane. I don't want to go 𝘁𝗏 because I need 𝘁 for another spot. Though I can see where the 𝘁𝗏 could be the best option if you go for like Artifact in the mid lane. 𝘁𝗏 is probably the strongest top laner still, so you could go 𝘁𝗏 Yijin as well. What do you have in top lane?
I have 𝘁.
𝘁.
Yep. Because I was limited by the rest of my picks, and he was the best one left.
So you decided top lane last? Interesting. Okay, I started with top lane.
Yeah. Well, because I was debating top lane, I was like, okay, so I definitely know who I want in mid. And then I was like, okay, I think I know who I want in jungle. I know who I want in ADC. And then I was like, which support? I picked one and then went, okay, what teams do I have left? Okay, we're going down the totem pole a little bit.
It's not a super bad call. Last week, of course, did not look too great for 𝘁𝗏, but before that, he was a very solid player, and you can just put him on weak side top laners, on tanks, and let him scale. If the rest of your map can carry, maybe that's actually not
that was
that
exactly
bad.
my thought.
Yeah, I thought so. So for jungle, I imagine you have Yijin. Oh, that's interesting.
Yep, I have Yijin.
So I think if you I think if you start jungle, you pick Yijin. I wanted Yoshino, so I couldn't go for a Flash player, so I went with 𝘁𝗏.
Okay. I think 𝘁𝗏's also had a really good split. I think Yijin's better.
I agree.
For sure. But we are limited by the rules. I don't think 𝘁𝗏's too wild, and I think we have the same mid lane.
Yeah, I think the mid lane is probably for the same for everyone.
𝘁𝗏.
Nope.
I think we both have
of course. He's the MVP of the league. He's by far the best player right now, so... if you don't pick 𝘁𝗏, you're trolling.
You're straight.
I think there's one case where you can go 𝘁𝗏 top, Yijin jungle, and then Artifact mid lane. But with how good 𝘁𝗏 has looked, it's very hard to overlook him. It's really.
I think he is the S+ tier of the VCS.
He's the one player where we would say he would be successful in a different region as well. Right now. I think he's the only player in the VCS right now where you can say that confidently.
Yeah, I agree. So, I actually want to do a little bit different. Who do you have support?
Oh, nice. Leaving a little bit of suspense for ADC.
Yep. Because I think you're going to hate my ADC. So, who do you have in
support? Was very hard to decide for me.
I was tossing up between
I have B. I decided on B.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I think B had a very good split last split, and also a strong first half of this split. He went a little bit more quiet in the last few games. I still think he was the second best player, and I kind of wanted to go for Sorn in the jungle, but then I couldn't pick B for support, so I decided to go with 𝘁𝗏 and B. I think that's stronger than the other way around, where you go...
I had Sorn at first as well.
If you go Sorn...
My support's Ron OP.
I wanted to go Ron OP as well. I thought Ron OP would be better, but then I wouldn't have an ADC left. So, yeah, I wanted to go for Artemis ADC. I'll just say that.
Okay.
So,
So So you've revealed that your ADC is
Yeah.
Artemis. Can you guess who I
Police.
picked? No.
Oh wait. Who's still open?
I'm not inting that much.
Who's still open?
Oh
Bikoro.
no, shit! I've just realized I've cheated.
He went celebrity.
Shit, I had celebrity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I cheated. Then I'll have Big Koro.
Okay. Yeah, Bikoro makes a lot of
I'll have
sense as
Bikoro.
well. He's a very solid player. I debated between Artemis and Bikoro. In the end, I think Artemis is a little bit of a harder carry player. So, and looking at my team, actually, Bikoro would fit the team maybe a little bit better even. With Yoshino and Dia1 as strong solo laners. But yeah, I like Artemis'
That was
play.
sort of yeah. I mean, I don't think Artemis is a bad pick. I think this split we are spoiled for AD
Yeah,
carry.
absolutely. Even Celebrity is better now.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to pick him, but then I forgot that I had two.
So do you want to change top or do you want to change ADC?
I think I'm gonna take. Oh god, that's a hard choice now. I think I'm gonna change ADC because he's the one I realized I was cheating on, and I'm gonna take that hit.
Well, let's hear. So you go Bikoro and Rono P bot lane. Okay, so your team is Hani, Yijin, Dia1, Bikoro, Rono P.
Yep,
Okay,
correct.
so a little bit of very, very heavy jungle mid lane focus, I would say. If you look at the team, very.
I trust that if you could, like, obviously we're imagining a world where these players have synergy. Can you imagine this split, Yijin and Dia1?
It sounds super scary to play
Terrifying.
against. Yeah,
Terrifying.
absolutely. So we have Bikoro and Rono people. Bikoro playing a little bit back, playing maybe fasting center and stuff, just to provide a little bit more utility. Hani playing some tanks in the top lane and being left alone. And then Rono P providing engages, and you play through Yijin Dia1. I like the idea of this team. It's a very clear style, and yeah, I don't think you have the strongest overall players in all the positions, but I think your team works surprisingly well as a 5-man unit.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
So I think my team is a little bit more of the power picks per player, a little bit more of the super team, if I might say so. Yoshino, DNK, Dia1, Artemis B. I'd say my team has a little stronger mechanics, but might not work as well, especially from the get-go. Might need some time to find the best way to play. Dia1 Yoshino is a super strong solo lane setup, though, so I think we can definitely play through solo lanes and DNK facilitating 2 solo lanes, and then Artemis and B scaling into late game. So I think my team is a little bit more of win lane, win game, and your team is a little bit more of win through superior team fight and team coordination.
Yeah, it'd be a very fun matchup if we could play that. We'd have to clone a couple of players.
Yeah, we only have one player. One player is the same for our teams. Only one. That's quite surprising, actually.
I mean, I think that shows that in the mid tier of the VCS, it's all very competitive.
Yeah. I think there's a clear number 1 for jungle as well with Yijin, but he didn't quite fit my team, so I had to go with DNK. But yeah, I think you have 2. We have definitely clear number 1 in mid lane, Dia1. Clear number 1 in jungle is Yijin. For ADC this split, it's not easy to decide who's the best ADC. I wouldn't know right now. I wouldn't need to
I wouldn't be able
rewatch
to say.
some of the games. I'd say probably Slater, but he has had some off games as well. Maybe it's even Celebrity.
Yeah, I think Celebrity's had he's redeemed himself for last split where he got so many undeserved
Yeah, he did. I mean, it's also a very good meta for him, so it's good to see him being able to profit.
Still, you got to play to it, so.
So, of course, if you like that little segment, hit us up with your picks. If you want to flame our teams, go ahead.
Yeah. You could also, I mean, if we try and make this a little bit more regular, maybe people can throw their own teams at us.
We can flame them for their teams. That's more interesting as well.
And we can flame them right back. Exactly. Much more fair. Don't do what I did. Just remember it's 1 player per team, not randomly 2 from Flash.
Secret.
Secret. I'm having a bad day. We're recording this at 1 a.m. my time.
Cut him some slack. I took too long to contact EveryWei today.
It's okay. I've just been playing Apex all day. Playing so much Apex. So I think with that, we are sort of going to wrap up our VCS coverage there. We've got a very good week coming up. We've had a very fun split. But we kind of want to move on because this is the EveryWei podcast and sort of talk about what we've been doing independent of the VCS. We've had a pretty exciting week, I think. At least an exciting day. We got to cast one of the LPL games over on the OPAL cast channel, which was really exciting, casting to nearly 3,000 people as RNG took on OMG. How did you feel about doing that? Not necessarily about your cast, but sort of going into it and coming out of it. How did that feel as an amateur caster?
So, it's kind of hard to describe because we worked with something a little bit different than what we usually do, of course, with the feed provided to us. I'm not actually sure how to describe that. We had like a custom feed where we could enable cameras and like see the chat and see some stuff on the map. So it was a little bit more professional than just looking at the YouTube screen, which is what we usually do. So I needed some time to actually understand everything there. I was a little bit thrown off because I didn't know they did that. And
yeah, I mean, it's worth noting, OPAL is the official English PCS.
Of course.
Caster, and he's using their resources.
Yeah,
so
it's super cool.
Very
super cool that he provided us with that.
Yeah.
What also super threw me off the first time I noticed it was when OPAL talked to us while we were still on the air. So I think he was muted. He only talked to us in Discord, so it wasn't audible on stream. But he told us to wrap it up for the break, and it was so hard for me to keep going because I was just so confused by his voice suddenly telling us that we should move to a break, but we're still talking about the game.
It's funny because I sometimes make the joke that we've got production in our ear when it's just me reading.
And this time we had
someone making a good point, but we actually had production in our ear. So I think it was like, obviously, in the end, it was still an amateur cast. We were still sitting in our bedrooms, but it was really cool. And cool. I mean, I've gotten a lot of, maybe not a lot. I've gotten a fair bit of feedback, and I went back and watched the cast. I didn't feel great coming out of them. At least like an hour or so later, partially because I just have anxiety. But I went back and watched them, and I think we did really well.
It's cool. Yeah, I didn't have the time to watch them yet, but I will definitely go back to watch the casts. How did you feel coming in? You tweeted out that you were super nervous, and I was very nervous. Did it go away? After some time, or did you stay nervous for the whole time? Because I kind of noticed that you were a little bit nervous. You made some remarks about the VCS in the beginning. I thought you wanted to feel like home a little bit, right? So
yeah, that was definitely the point. I was very nervous coming into it. I mean, I don't want to go into it. I have some issues. Like, I've got quite bad anxiety, so that didn't help. But yeah, I was nervous because, I mean, I want to make casting my career. And I think this was important. So yeah, I was nervous. I think I got over it. I think about game one was hard for me because there wasn't much play-by-play. Yeah. So I had to support your color, which of course I'm always going to do, right? But it's not something I can, when I do play-by-play, I don't think. It's just very instinctive for me. I just sort of have a train of thought and I just go, and that works. When I'm supporting your color, I have to think a lot more, and I was very nervous about saying something silly.
Okay.
Because when we do the VCS cast, sometimes I do say something kind of dumb and you disagree with me and you outline why, and that's a good way to disseminate information. But when we were casting for 3,500 people and they don't know me, I didn't want to just look like a dickhead.
That makes a lot of sense.
Because our audience knows me, right? We've got sort of this back and forth going, and our audience pretty much knows who I am, who you are.
That's true, yeah.
This audience doesn't. They didn't even know we're a duo.
That's true,
really.
yeah. So
I think once game 2 happened, that was a much more team fight heavy game, and I could just sort of lose it in the play-by-play.
yeah, without reviewing the game, I felt like game 2 was our best cast for the three games. Not sure though. I did, as I said, I haven't found the time to go back yet, but
Yep.
I'm not sure. Do you agree? I felt very good about game 2 on the day.
Yeah. I think game 2 was the best. Game 2 was the closest to the VCS.
Yeah, that's true.
So
it was very aggressive from OMG.
Revert to our natural rhythm.
Also very hype as well,
so
right?
We could go back to
because OMG after.
Yeah, because they won.
So I think it was the easiest to cast as a setup because I also prepared some stuff about OMG, and almost everything came true in game 2. After in game 1, they didn't really follow what I expected them to do. A little bit because of their composition, but in game 2, they really went back to full-on aggression and actually surprised RNG a lot. So it was very high, but also tying back into the preparation. So I think that helped a lot.
Yeah. I think your preparation massively helped. Obviously you.
Yeah, I
mean, I'm sure it did.
I felt very...
having notes to refer to.
Very safe talking about the teams, which is something I was a little bit scared about coming into LPL because I didn't watch every single LPL game. So also...
Yeah, I'm not an LPL expert. I don't watch a huge amount of LPL. So I was a little bit lost on who the teams were.
Yeah.
But your prep, it helped me as well. And I don't even really have to analyze anything.
Yeah. So overall, do you think we left a good impression?
I think we did.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we got good feedback. We got 1 or 2 tweets saying, hey, hopefully you guys do more. OPAL was positive. I mean, some of that I'm sure was just him being polite.
He's Canadian after all.
He's hardly going to get off broadcast and say, we're hardly going to get off broadcast and him say, well, that was shit. We'd have to be really bad for that. But I mean, from everyone I was talking to when the second and third series were being played, it was positive. There was definitely things we can improve, but that's the reality of being an amateur caster. We're not at the top of the game.
Always things to improve on.
Exactly. So, but yeah, I think it was good overall. I'd love to do it again.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe not at 6 o'clock again. That was a little harsh.
Yeah, maybe if we can get a later
show. But yeah, I'm obviously happy to do it.
But yeah. So, I mean, I think that's really what's happened casting-wise for us. So I don't know what else there is to talk about. Maybe in the future, when we do this section, we might have a few more things to talk about. If one of us has an opportunity to talk about, who knows? But yeah, I think unless there is anything else you want to touch on, I think we're at the end.
Do you have a cool solo queue pick you want to recommend to everyone? Or a game like Apex?
Let me put it this way. League is currently not installed on my computer.
Okay.
I deleted it for disk space. I mean, yeah, I've been playing heaps of Apex Legends. It's such a good game. If you're out there and you played the Titanfall games, just play Apex. Trust me. I know Battle Royales are totally played out, and I wish it wasn't a Battle Royale, but the movement, the shooting... God, I love it. It's such a good game. Do you have... I know you're preparing for Clash. I see you're ADCing. Who are you prepping?
Wow. My day yesterday was rough in terms of prep. I played 8 games together with 2 friends in 𝘀liche𝗰𝗶𝗹𝗀, and we went 1-7. Oh, God. It was quite disappointing. I think I'll go back to the few ADCs I I played before when I was off-rolling. 𝘁cie also always one of my favorites to play. I think 𝘁cie is very smooth. You can just feel 𝘁cie very easily. It's you get to know what you can do. Of course, there's very good 𝘁cies who know when and how to use the ultimate defensively, offensively. I think I'm okay on 𝘁cie. Not super great, but it's good enough.
My problem with 𝘁cie is I think that shield's a lot bigger
Yeah,
than it is.
that is a big problem.
I get way too bloodthirsty.
And then MF. I'll just spam MF because she's super easy to play. And super easy to lane. She's very strong right now, so yeah. I think MF is a very good choice for me. I have my pocket mages if I want to. My support is also playing a bit of Senna, so I can go back to my 𝘁𝗀𝗀. Still 100% related to 𝘁𝗀𝗀 Senna. Very, very nice combination.
That lane sounds so dirty.
It's so great. It is so much fun.
That's too much healing.
So much fun. Yeah. So yeah, I'll try my best. I'm really not the greatest laner on ADCs. I absolutely love to play ADC champs. I think my favorite role to watch and play is ADC, but I'm really not good at laning ADCs. So I can't really play ADCs in my elo because I'm not a good enough laner. Yeah. It's a little bit unfortunate, but yeah, I love ADCs, and so I'll try my best.
Yeah, I mean, I think my favorite lane is still top lane. I like 1v1s. I like the just fight constantly kind of top lanes. So I don't particularly like this top lane better because I find myself playing into Ornn way too often because my team doesn't ban him, and I'm not going to pick him because I'm going to pick Set.
Well.
So I get punished because I let Ornn through. But yeah, I think that about does it.
Yep.
For us.
I think so too.
So this has been another episode of the EveryWei podcast. Thank you for listening. Bit of a laid back one, as I think we like to do. I have, of course, been Everyday Caster. With me has been Yulwei. We hope you guys have a really lovely week, and make sure you tune in to the VCS tomorrow.
Yep.
This should be uploaded. It'll probably be the VCS today by the time this is uploaded. But, yeah, I hope to see you in the stream. See you guys
See you in week 7, and of course week 8 and 9 as well. And there are some very exciting matches coming up. Cerberus Team Secret, don't miss it. 𝘀𝗰𝗶𝗹𝘀 against 𝘀аше on Saturday. Don't miss that. So see you all in chat.